Well, hey, and welcome to the Creative Corner podcast. My name is Noah Black. I am your host, and I have a really incredible guest with me today. I'm super pumped. I have Shelby McVicker. She is an incredibly talented musician, incredibly talented songwriter, as well as an artist and graphic designer. So let's welcome Shelby McVicker to the podcast.
Hi. Thank you so much for having
I
me.
know. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm really pumped. Like, as I begin to plan out like all the guests to be able to have on the show and everything like that, I think you were one of the people I was really excited about. Simply for the fact of whenever I was doing shows in the music scene with the band that I was in, you guys were one of my favorite bands. You were in. You played in a band called Reason to Find, and so
That's it.
you guys were definitely one of my favorites. And so I wanted to make sure to have you guys on or to have you on
Thank
specifically.
you.
So yeah, just to start off, like just to give a little check in. I know COVID's been crazy for everybody. What does this season look like for you?
COVID for me, it has looked like a lot of books
Oh yeah.
and a lot of hanging out with my dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, when when lockdown happened, Reason to Find had just gotten back from tour.
Right.
And so we got back from tour like I think the first week of March, and then
Mhm.
that next week is when quarantine happened.
Right.
So we were all. It was just like a shell shock. I don't know. I went
Yeah.
from being on the road to then being like locked in my dad's house. So it was very weird.
Right. For sure. For sure. Yeah. And before even diving into that, what I would love to hit on with you is talking about like specifically. I know that you are a graphic designer, and
Yeah.
so like what has that been? Because I know before, um, I know you would launch like a design company and everything, and then this kind of happened. I know from hearing from other graphic designers that I'm friends with. I mean, it's a huge toll. I mean, it's a toll on everybody. But how has that affected that with you with graphic design?
Um. Actually, it's been weird. I've been the busiest that I've been graphic design wise
That's crazy.
ever
Yeah.
during quarantine, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I am a graphic designer. I got my degree at App State,
Mhm.
and I don't know, being what I initially got into graphic design to do was to like design shirts and stuff for bands.
Right.
And then my my goal kind of got obliterated there once COVID hit because I was
Yeah.
like, nobody's touring, nobody needs new shirts,
Right.
nobody needs merch. Um, and so I ended up at a graphic designer at this little donut shop, and
Uh-huh.
so I've just been like working in the food industry as a graphic designer, which is weird because I
Right.
didn't think that there would be a market for that.
For sure.
But there is. It's
Yeah.
pretty big, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. What would you
Definitely
say?
testing my skills.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say initially like got you into graphic design and that art style and everything?
So I originally got into graphic design, I guess, because I wanted to have a job that would allow me to tour
Right.
as well as have some sort of
Yeah.
income.
Side hustles.
And from the beginning of when I first started, like when I was in Reason to Find, like my parents were very like, you have to have a backup plan in case
Right.
this goes through,
Yeah.
which valid.
Yeah.
And so we I ended up choosing graphic design because I wanted to be able to do something creative that wasn't music related, but also
Yeah.
allowed me to still work in the industry.
100%.
And so I think that that's what drove me to it. And then I started doing a little bit more like socially
Mhm.
driven projects,
Right.
and doing a little bit more. I don't want to say political because I don't think it was necessarily political, but
Mhm.
more just like social change
Yeah.
driven
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
topics. And,
Yeah.
and
Love that.
that's kind of where when I was a senior in college, that's where like my capstone focus was doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's cool because I know for me, whenever I had first like started dabbling in graphic design, I think you worded it well. Of like, it's an art style that you feel like you want to get it out somehow, but music like wasn't that way of getting it out, and so I think that's really cool. I think you worded that well. So that's really cool. And
Yeah.
to talk through like the music stuff, especially like with Reason Defined, like that's how I got connected with you. I know the band that I was in previously, we were able to play a show together, and so it was a ton of fun and everything. And so, just to talk about that, I know you guys back in October, I believe, like announced your split and everything like that. And so, what if you don't mind me asking, like through that process, what was that like going into that to where it is now?
I mean, anybody who asks me, I say it's the toughest breakup I've ever gone through. And it's not that we all hated each other and
Right.
like that's why it ended.
Yeah.
It was never like that. But you know, speaking from like my personal experience, when Reason to Find started, I was 16 years old.
Right.
And I kind of made every single life decision from 16 to 22 with the mindset of what decision should I make that is going to best suit the band?
Right.
And what do I need to do to make this easy enough for me to be in this band and like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, through the years, we got to do so much incredible stuff that I would do it all again tomorrow.
Yeah.
If I could. But I think that a big thing that, you know, quarantine and like slowing life down made all of us realize was that we kind of missed out a little bit on our youth, and there were just kind of some other avenues that we wanted to explore.
Right.
And you know, really like dive into. Like for me, it was kind of I wanted to dive into my graphic design stuff and potentially see what, you know, the future could look like.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, nobody right now is playing shows anyway, and so it just I don't know, it just felt like the right time to take a step back and kind of focus on ourselves a little bit instead of saying, okay, what do I need to do for the band? It's kind of like, okay, what do I need to do for me at this moment?
Yeah, 100%. That totally makes sense. And I get that, and the way that you guys have like presented that, communicate that, like from what I can see as an outsider, like you guys are still very much friends. You guys still very much like get along, and so I think that's big. And I think a band to what you guys' scale was before splitting, like there's like people can freak out and wonder like what actually happened. It's a tough decision because I get it, like you love it so much, but it's something that it's tough, but you know, but you have to really focus on what avenues can you explore the best and where can you utilize your gifts and your talents the best. And so I definitely get that.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, you know, and we're all still very close. Like, I mean, Sydney is my little sister, so she's not going anywhere. But I mean, like, for her, we started the band when she was 12 years old.
Right.
And we used to like take her out of like high school to go on tour.
That's crazy.
Like her teachers would be so upset.
Yeah.
And so you know, like that was like, what I need to go to, like I gotta go to college, like in a pandemic period. You know, it's just like,
Yeah. I was the youngest in our band as well, so I got like you're going into the bars and you're having the X on your hand. so
I mean, you know, a part of me's like, I didn't get to play shows for very long without the X's.
Yeah. That's so funny. I love that. Yeah. What, on a more lighthearted, I know we hit that for a second, but on a more lighthearted thing, what were some of the most like impactful shows or things that you remember a lot, whether it's in a specific spot or whatever? What's some stories that you can think of? I'm sure there's a lot.
There's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, being on tour and being in the band will always be like one of my favorite things that we did.
Yeah.
You know, and nothing can. There's no like, substance out there
Yeah.
that can equate the adrenaline rush
Right.
of being on stage.
Right.
Like there's nothing. And
Yeah.
that always will stick with me. But I don't know. The thing that I feel like I was the most impacted by it by being in that band and being with them for so long was that the things that we put out, people really resonated with.
Right.
And I feel like it's because it came from a place of like true, deep emotion.
Yeah.
And I feel like through some of our things, like I bared my soul a little bit. And I don't know, people saw that, I think, and, would come up to our merch table or find me or find whoever and share their stories.
Right.
That was always something that I thought was really cool, was
That's awesome.
like hearing different people's stories
Yeah.
and hearing what they had to say and what the music made them feel like and connecting with them.
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think you hit on it really well. Of you guys were very, very did a great job of being very open and vulnerable in your lyricism. And I know you did a great deal of songwriting as well, correct? Yeah.
I mean, I would say that as a collective, the five of us wrote equally.
Right. That's cool. That's awesome.
But it was like the magic was when all five of us were writing together.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I love that. That's super cool. And that shows a lot of really cool teamwork involved, and then you can all share a sense of pride in it. And I think I've seen that at your shows before, specifically your album release show for In Memory. Seeing you guys it wasn't just your stage presence was great, but you could tell that each of you five were so heavily connected with the lyrics that you were playing to, that you were singing to. And so I thought that was really incredible to be able to see as an outsider, watching it on stage. I thought it was incredible. You guys did an incredible job at that. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, that album, and, I'll always have my fingers crossed that it won't be the last album that we put out.
Right.
But the last one that we put out, it came from such a place of vulnerability, I think.
Yeah.
And, all of us were vulnerable while writing it. And I don't think there was a single person in the band who didn't put their entire self being into that album.
Right, yeah.
And it honestly, it took so much of us that, we had to stop writing for a bit because we were like, this sucked our soul out. We can't go on for a minute. So, I mean, it was, that album, I have not been able to listen to the full thing again yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that I'll get there and I'll still feel the same thing I felt the day we released it.
Yeah, for sure. And specifically, I know one of the songs I wanted to chat with you about, because I know, just from the outside, being able to see what all you've talked about and been open about with the song Pointing Fingers. Incredible song, been one of my favorite songs to listen to. One of the cool things with that is how open you are and vulnerable you are with your experience with sexual abuse. And so I talked with you before even starting this, I wanted to be very careful with something like that. Of I know that's a very sensitive situation for people to talk about, and so as open as you want to be with that, but through writing a song like that, I know you did a college project for people who had suffered that, and just seeing their experience in being open and vulnerable like that with a song, especially with such a deep wound like that. How have you found it impactful for you as well as for other people to be able to be just open about something like that?
Well, I think that there's a certain level of I don't really know what the right word is, but there's a certain level of, I guess, comfort when somebody you can look at and I don't think of myself as elevated by any
right.
But somebody who you look up to, I guess, says this happened to me and it is okay, and that is I looked up to people Lady Gaga and Halsey
Right.
were the two ones that I was like specifically really interested in their stories.
Yeah.
And I really took inspiration from that, and also just like me needing to talk about it, I guess, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing that I didn't expect was so many people after we released that song to come up to me and be like, "Thank you. This happened to
Yeah.
me too.
Wow.
Like, thank you so much for writing this." Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that was like the most impactful thing that happened to me throughout the entirety of being in the band.
Right.
It was me being able to be like, "This happened to me, and
Yeah.
here's like resources or whatever. Like, let's talk about it because it's
Yeah.
an issue."
Right.
And I think that was just the most impactful thing that happened.
Right.
And the band was really supportive of
Mhm.
me. Like, they were like, "Yes, let's do it. Like,
Right.
we're on board for what you're saying. Like, let's go for it."
Yeah.
Which I was really appreciative of. They were also really open to me, like, even writing a song about it.
Yeah.
And Caitlin really helped me with the lyrics of that song.
Right.
And Savannah had it. Like, everybody had a hand in it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it just kind of spiraled into this thing where like people would just like come up to me all of this, like, I think at least once a show, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
When after that song was released, someone would come up to me and say thank you, or
Yeah.
this happened to me, and then tell me like their story. And then you were right, when I was in college, my final project was called A Story Like Mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about the stories of sexual abuse and harassment survivors, like having a space to tell their stories. Right. And so storytelling and giving people space to share their experiences was always something that I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And I mean, not only as a musician, but also as an artist.
For sure.
And so I kind of felt like, I don't know, it was like my duty or something. I just wanted to make a positive impact and a positive change on that. I said this in my post when the band broke up, was the most that I could have ever wanted was to make an impact.
Yeah.
And through that song, I was able to feel like I did a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
And that felt very validating.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, people will still reach out to me now, even, and say, "I'm listening to Pointing Fingers and thinking about this. Thank you."
Right.
And that still just like blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to do that. Like, I'm more than welcome to like listen to people tell their stories, because like I get it.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I've not ever experienced anything similar to that, but what I found in other experiences where I have experienced a lot of either emotional damage, physical damage, whatever it's been, I found that whenever I am open about it and I expose it of what my experiences were, how healing that is for me. I'm sure. Would you be able to speak into that of with your situation?
Yeah, I mean, like being able to write the song,
right?
To release the song, then like do my projects.
Yeah.
That I needed to do. Like with each thing that I did, it felt like another part of me was healing.
Right.
And another part of me was like growing flowers or something, like I think of it like a garden. And I was like tending that garden and making it, beautiful. And like that's really what all I ever wanted through when I was 15 is still what I want at 23. And that is just to make a positive impact on people and to help people through art or through music.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it's going to be yet for me.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that. And especially to talk a little bit more, you've mentioned a few different points with your songwriting and then like your collaborative like efforts with the other four in Reason to Find. Um, like you guys were always very vulnerable, but how would you say from your experience as a songwriter as well as learning other things from the four of them or maybe even other people in general, um, what would you encourage the like aspiring songwriter that's tuning in and listening that's like, hey, I am either trying to write songs but they're not working, or I've never written a song and I want to. What would you encourage, like practically some tips but even emotionally, those types of things, for the person wanting to get into that?
I would say listen to your inner voice a little bit.
Hmm.
Don't talk about something if you're not ready to.
Yeah.
I think that, a lot of people kind of like push themselves to be very vulnerable.
Hmm.
And unless you're in a place where you can be that vulnerable with your songwriting,
Right.
like don't push yourself too hard. Take it
Right.
easy on yourself. Something I've had to learn through quarantine is to slow down
Right.
and not be so hard
For sure.
on myself. But I think that, I've tried writing songs where, they kind of mean nothing,
Hmm.
and then songs where it has come from, like, my deepest, darkest, secretive place.
Right.
And the one that felt better to me was the one where I really dove in and did some inner work while also
Yeah.
making art.
Right.
And I think it just kind of depends on the person, because I know I have some friends that can just like write a song about cheeseburgers and it's dope. Right? I know I can't do that.
You gotta send me a link to that song.
So, I think it just depends on what is speaking to you and your inner voice. And like,
Yeah.
my advice would be to try a million things.
Hmm.
And whichever one feels best to you is going to be the one you're the most passionate about.
Right.
And then your passion will drive you to where you need to be.
Right. I love asking the question of like, what's your perspective in songwriting? Because everybody has 17,000 different formulas of how they write songs. But I think it's cool because each and every one of those are unique for a reason. And like you have your own specific lane and your own specific voice for a reason. And so I love that. And I think that there's definitely something that you do just mentioning that can impact somebody that can push them exactly in their lane of songwriting or art or whatever. I think that's super cool.
You know how everybody, like, every interview Taylor Swift does, she's asked about her songwriting process? Like, you can't, no matter how many times people ask her, they can't just copy, like, 2 + 2 = 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to find your own formula.
Yeah, for sure. Just to dive into now, like there's some future things with music that you're diving into. I know you have the day that this is posted, you'll have a live stream coming up with Dollskin. So tell me about how that came to be, how you connected with them, and what's going to be in the live
actually
stream.
have known them since, basically since Reason to Find started.
Really, that's cool.
Yeah, we have known each other for a very long time. We played a show together at Ground Zero in Spartanburg.
Wow.
When they were on tour, like their very first tour with, I think, OTEP. And we became friends instantly. We clicked very, very well. And we've been friends throughout the years. And then the same day that we announced the Reason to Find split, Sydney, their lead singer, they messaged me and were like, hey, Alex, who was their current guitar player, is leaving the band, and what are you doing in a couple months?
That's so funny.
I was like,
weird timing.
I don't know. I was like, I have no idea what I'm eating for dinner tomorrow. Let me get back to you.
That's so funny.
No, but we had talks. We've been friends for a long time. So when they asked me to go out, I flew out to Phoenix and was there for a week and like we did the live stream. We drove to Vegas to do it at Evergreen Studios, and then drove back to Phoenix, and then I stayed a couple extra days and like did some graphic design stuff for them for their single release of their that's coming out the day before on the 26th. control freak.
Mm-hmm.
And then did a little bit of songwriting with them, which was
That's
very
so
fun.
cool. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
it
So
was really cool. I love them so much.
yeah, that's
It's been
so
really
awesome.
cool to watch them, you know, not even just Sydney and Megan, but like also Alex and Nicole, like grow as
Yeah.
people over the years, and like we've stayed connected
Mm-hmm.
through like social media and stuff. And the cool thing about musicians, I feel like, is, and maybe it's not just musicians, but in my experience,
It's been musicians.
it's like when you see each other, you just kind of pick up right where you left off.
Right, for sure.
Even if you don't see each other for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Which in my case, like I had not seen them in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So but still, I felt like no time had passed.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was very, very fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody is asking me if I'm like gonna stay a permanent member or what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And the answer to that is I don't know what I'm having for dinner tomorrow. So check back with me later.
That's so funny. I love that. But just with the live stream, what can because what I'll encourage, like if you're watching it right now, be sure to like jump on. What can people expect, and then how can they jump into that tonight?
So it is coming out on Dollskin's YouTube page at 1:30 their time, so it'll be 3:30 our time.
Nice.
3:30 Eastern time.
Right.
And it's coming out on the 27th.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love, like, bands have been putting together really cool live streams lately that have just been super interactive and really good quality and stuff. And so really pumped to be able to check that out with you guys. So I'm excited for you too.
The studio that we did it in was awesome.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, it was in Las Vegas. It was called Evergreen Studios. Their camera guy, Cam, which is hilarious, and Macario, like they did such a great job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got the rough draft today.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm very, very stoked for it to come out.
Yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And then whatever you end up doing and getting involved in, support you in the future. Like if there's anything from the channel like that I can do like to support you, that band, whatever it ends up being, like know that you've got that. And I'm sure there's viewers and listeners right now. They're listening to it because they're here to support you. And so it's really cool.
It's wild. And I think I just need to like say thank you to everyone for like still being interested.
Right.
Like I expected like once Reason to Find stopped that like, you know, it would be like an all or nothing type situation.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's all of you or none of you. And so it's been really cool to like still feel the support that I did while I was in Reason to Find,
Right.
but now as a solo.
Right.
I don't want to say I'm a solo artist because that feels like a fake statement to make, but as a free agent.
Right.
I'm a free agent who wants to trade me to their team. I don't know.
I can assure you, like 85% of the people that jump onto this podcast are going to be just to watch what you have to say and everything. 15% will be like family members who just feel obligated to watch on mine.
Oh, I hope if my dad and mom are watching, hey, I love you. I know that they will watch.
Yeah, that's so funny. For whoever's jumping in, like, is there anything that like you'd want to encourage, like the songwriter, the creative, the artist, of just something to encourage them through with, I mean, whether it be with COVID going on or just like it's tough to be an artist even pre-COVID, and so any sort of encouragement you would want to offer those people?
I would say to trust that whatever is coming for you, or whatever, like, I'm wording this so poorly, but I listened to a fantastic podcast the other day where they were being really inspirational. I'm doing a bad job. But just like trust that the universe has got you, I guess, is what I would say.
Right.
Whatever you are working towards, it will happen.
Yeah.
I know with COVID, I know I personally have felt like I need to be doing everything that I can to make up for the lack of things that I can't do.
Right.
And it's really made me focus in and be like, no, this is what am I doing in my present moment? What makes me feel the best?
Mm.
Like, what do I want to do? You know, not Shelby from Reason to Find, but what is like, strip her away.
Yeah.
Who am I right in this moment? What do I want to do right now?
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I have learned. Because, you know, since I was 16, I was the girl in the band.
Right.
And that's what people knew me as.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, focus on try a million things and focus on what gives you the most happiness. Within reason. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah.
I'm a straight edge lady, and people are always like shocked.
That's so funny.
I'm like, yes, I can have tattoos and colored hair and not do a lot of drugs.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah,
But
well,
I don't know, do whatever makes you happy, man.
Yeah, that's
you're not hurting other people. Take it one day at a time. Of course, you're stressed. I'd be surprised if you weren't stressed because it's a pandemic.
For sure. Yeah. Well, how for the people that are jumping on it and viewing or listening, how can they stay connected with you through socials or anything like that, or anything you want to just like plug, like coming out?
I mean, I'm on Instagram. My @ is Shelby_McVicker. Feel free to DM me if you have any questions or whatever. I would say that's probably the best place. My email is on there. If anybody ever wants to send me an email, I know that's old fashioned, but I like emails.
Yeah.
Send me your best book recommendations. I'm currently reading Kingdom of Fire or of Flesh and Fire, and if you've read this series, please call me because I have questions.
That's so funny.
I've read so many books over quarantine, but this one's got me.
Yeah.
That's out. But
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Shelby, thank you for real, like so much for jumping on and chatting with me.
Of course.
And
thank
for
you
sure.
so much for having me on here and, you know, thinking that my words are valuable and worth listening to.
That's so fun. For real. Like I know that especially in the space of like you've had such a presence within Reason to Find and everything, but I think that you worded it incredible a little bit ago of like it's something more valuable than just putting your identity within a band or within something, that there's value with you as an individual. And I think that that's a good word for anybody jumping in, that like, hey, find out like what it is that has been instilled in you, like what is it that you're passionate about, and finding ways to use that and use that to make a difference in other people's lives. And so I think that's incredible. So for real, like you have a voice, you have a platform, Shelby, and you're definitely using it in a positive way. And so like very much like was very excited to be able to have you on. So thank you very, very much.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, if you're watching this through YouTube, be sure to subscribe to that. If you're listening through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, be sure to subscribe, stay connected through there, and be sure to stay connected with Shelby. Go connect with her social medias, and be sure to stay connected with her there. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.